Hello, I'm Beth Bartel, and I'm presenting on behalf of myself and my co-author, Wendy Bohan, and I'm going to talk about virtual science communication training because virtual is the theme this year, unlike the photos at the top of this slide would suggest. So remember last year? Last year, we presented in the equivalent of this session, and we talked about 3 steps to a better scientific community through science communication training. And we talked about all the benefits we can get from science communication training in addition to people becoming better communicators. And we said in order to get those benefits, we needed to teach the basics, foster lots of interaction like you can see in that photo, and also create safe spaces. And then what happened? Well, 2020 happened. 2020 happened and we could no longer have those spaces like the one shown here. And yet we were asked to run a 2-day science communication workshop at the annual meeting of the Earth Educators Rendezvous, the same one we had offered 2 years previously, 3 hours each day. And almost all our materials are based on interactive exercises. So 2020, thanks for the curveball. What do we do? Well, we ran the workshop. We had the option to not, but we did, like so many of you who are watching, we thought about it, adjusted, adapted, and we ran essentially the same workshop, different format, with a lot of the same successes, surprisingly. So the National Association of Geoscience Teachers are responsible for running the Earth Educators Rendezvous. They have people rate their experiences on a scale from 1 to 4. And here we can see at the end of the first day during a road check survey, people overwhelmingly in general said, yes, I was able to meaningfully contribute during today's sessions, and also that the design of the workshop facilitated exchange of expertise among participants. So that's not just us as presenters doing what I'm doing now and talking to you, but that people were actually able to engage and learn from each other and share their own knowledge. In the comments about the workshop in general, they talked a lot about interaction, getting to try out strategies, so they were still able to practice what they were learning, learn about each other. They appreciated the discussions and feedback, great conversations, including big group discussions. And this is a meeting of 50 people had signed up for this. And they appreciated the encouragement and friendly atmosphere. So how did we do that in a virtual environment? Well, we modified the activities where possible for the online environment, which on one hand is a duh, but we were really surprised to see that of all our activities, there was only one that we were going to eliminate because it was just going to be too difficult to modify for the online environment. But other things we were able to modify for breakout rooms. This picture actually made me a little nervous putting it in here, just seeing people so close to each other and shaking hands, actually touching. Um, but with breakout rooms, we can get a lot of that similar interaction where people are talking one-on-one and practicing elevator speeches. We also, rather than having each person play with an object that's shown here that they usually play with and respond to, we made a video and played the video for participants instead. So not the same thing, but we're still able to do a lot of the same activities. Again, we only eliminated one. So out of our entire 2-day program, we only swapped out 1 hour. How do we set a tone to create a safe space and for a place where people feel like they can feel comfortable participating? Well, we do the same things that we do in person. So we share about ourselves, we share our own experiences, and we acknowledge that we have imposter syndrome in multiple ways and multiple venues, and still today throughout our careers. We invite people to take care of themselves. If you need to get up, grab a glass of water, make some tea, get a snack, make your lunch, bring your lunch. We're all in different time zones. If you need to take care of your kids, if you need to use the bathroom, if you just want to take a break and sit this one out, all of those things are fine. So setting the expectation that really take care of yourself, do what you need to do, no questions asked. We're in a pandemic, and really, we hope this applied before the pandemic. It did for us, and we hope this applies after. Hopefully we have an after where we're in person again, and that this will still apply, that we're really taking care of ourselves. No questions asked is a norm. Also, we invited people to use the chat function. I'll talk more about that. And the acknowledgement that this may be awkward. When we're talking about science communication, we're asking people to get outside their comfort zones often. And so we're going to acknowledge that it may feel weird. And if it does, you're not the only one, and that's okay. We also sometimes get a little silly, which I'll also mention a bit later. Um, we get quickly to interactions. So we set the tone. We set the expectation that you can take care of yourself, and also that we're going to be engaging. This isn't something that we're going to multitask, turn off your video, sip your coffee, whatever. I mean, you can do that certainly, but this is an engaged, interactive thing that we're doing. And so this is our slide deck for the first day. It goes on and on for the second day, but for the first day, by slide 3, we're in an activity. Slide 4 is introducing another activity. There is no slide 5 for the first day. For 3 hours on day 1, we had 4 slides total for the entire day. So we tend to do a lot of interaction, and we try to invite that interaction early. Here's another example of that. Getting quickly to interaction. This is in a summer intern networking workshop that we gave for UNAVCO interns. How do we talk about or train on or practice networking online? Well, we figure it out. We're all in this together, so we figure it out. And again, here I have highlighted the slides that are activities. By slide 4, we're asking for audience engagement, maybe even actually by slide 3. And we're asking that in various ways, which I will get to shortly. And so here are the ways. How do we ask for interaction? Let's use all the ways possible to engage people, which is one of the benefits of having a virtual workshop, is that there are multiple ways that people can engage simultaneously. So one of those, excuse me, one of those is to use that chat function. Use it like mad. So this is a screenshot from a webinar that we gave, part of the NAGT, National Association of Geoscience Teachers series. This was on science communication for social justice. You can follow the QR code if you want to go to the page for it. And we asked people really early on, what do you hope to get out of this? How do you hope to use it? And partly that's to get a gauge for us of what are people here for. It's partly so other people can see what other people are there for, and also to get people comfortable using the chat. And so people know, hey, this is your space. This is your space to use. We invite you to use this space. And not only do we get insight and other people get insight for why somebody shows up, but that turned onto a full-on discussion with Q&A between participants as well as leaders. So we try to acknowledge that almost always there's going to be somebody in the room who has more knowledge, experience, expertise than we do as leaders or as facilitators, and please bring that knowledge to share. So there was a really, really active Q&A and discussion going in that chat. It really helps to have 2 people. So when one person, one lead is presenting or discussing or facilitating, the other can be on that chat, moderating the chat, seeing what's happening, responding on the chat with a further invitation for people to continue using that chat. And then also bringing the presenter's attention to things in the chat that they may need to pay attention to. And we can always also use that chat for logistical reasons. We can give a speaking order, for example. So we can't go around the room in a circle, and those blocks on Zoom or whatever, keep changing order. And so we can take a list of everybody's names, copy it, paste it right into the chat so everybody knows who's going next. If we're doing a share out with everybody in the group. We can also give instructions in the chat. So when people go to breakout rooms, put those instructions in before people go to breakout rooms. If you're in Zoom, that chat will be still with them in the breakout rooms, and they can refer back to those instructions. And also we can share links and other resources as people are talking. And people in this particular webinar loved the chat. So we like to think that we had some part in facilitating this whole thing as a success. But people overwhelmingly really appreciated the knowledge that was brought by the participants to this chat. Also, yes, utilize those breakout rooms. I already mentioned this, but we use a lot of breakout rooms. It's a great place to meet people. You can have people network, get to know each other. In the scientific communication course I'm teaching, my co-instructor, John Gerke, and I decided to try for a breakout room, like 10 minutes every class, just so people can get to know each other and build a cohort in times where we're not able to meet in person. So really use those breakouts. And we figure even if people are just talking to each other, that's still building community, and that's still a win. Interestingly, in the Earth Educators Rendezvous workshop, about half the people said the one-on-one breakouts were great, and the other half said, who responded to this particular question, said, yeah, one-on-one was a little awkward. It'd be better to have more people. So we've found that between like 3 to 6 people is ideal, because then everybody can be engaged and there's generally not that awkwardness, depending on the exercise. Um, Also, we can go outside Zoom or whatever tool we're using and use tools like mentimeter.com, which we used to generate a real-time word cloud. This is, again, going back to the Science Communication for Social Justice webinar. The question here for the audience or for the participants was, where are the inequities in geoscience? And there were over 100 people on this webinar, and this was a way for everybody who wanted to participate, engage, share some of their knowledge, their ideas, give feedback. So they went to mentee.com, entered a code, answered the question. They could put in more than one answer if they wanted. And here you might be able to see, it's small there, but we had 230 responses. So that's a really good way to engage people, even when you have really big groups. Speaking of gauging, it's hard to gauge the room virtually. This is really challenging for me. I'm used to being able to look around and just get a feel all at once for how things are going in the room. So we can do that in a number of ways. Instead of being able to look around and read people's faces, we can ask for people to give that thumbs up response. Unfortunately, there's not a thumbs down. A lot of times I want to be able to gauge, like, how are you guys doing? How's everybody doing out there? Um, so we could say, like, if it's a yes, give a thumbs up. If it's a no, give the surprise face. Also, if you have your cameras on, give me a thumbs up to thumbs down. How are you feeling? And we can send out a poll or ask people to put in the chat more of this, less of this. And we could use all of those simultaneously, and people can then respond in whatever way they're comfortable, for example. And that goes for any question, anytime we want audience feedback. Coming back to the idea of a little bit of silliness, we like to do a little volcano yoga sometimes. So we go through the eruption of Mount St. Helens. If you want to do it with us, you can follow that QR code. We do a little stretching, and it's a great way to just release a little tension, both in our bodies and just, in our minds as well. It's something just fun and playful that we can do as a break. Speaking of taking breaks, here are some of the lessons learned. Self-care is still really important as it virtually as in person, as well as breaks. The first day of that 3-hour, the 2-day workshop, we only had one break in our schedule, so we built in another one. The next day we had a longer break. We need breaks virtually as much, if not more, than what we need in person. Some people thought online worked great. Some people thought the activities didn't translate over. It's just the same as doing something in person. Some people like one thing, other people don't like that same thing. So it depends. Like I said, 3 to 6 seems to be a great number for breakout rooms. Depends on the activity. Sometimes 2 people is fine. And consider subgroups for post-activity group shareouts if you have a lot of people. Like we had 50 people, so the suggestion was if you split them up into 25 and 25, more people would be able to engage. And there are a lot of benefits to doing things virtually. So there are challenges, like I've talked about, but really there's a lot that we can still do. We can still teach the basics of science communication and be introspective and help other people be introspective. We can still foster a lot of interaction. For some people, maybe too much interaction, but in general, people responded saying that they really appreciated the interaction and really liked learning from their peers. We can still create safe spaces with these invitations to be human, to take breaks when you need to do what you need to do, and to share your knowledge. And we have different opportunities for engaging. So we can engage through that chat the whole time. Whereas normally, if we were in a room in person, we wouldn't be able to have that ongoing side dialogue, which on one hand can be distracting. On the other hand, it's another way for us to engage. So let's take advantage of all the online tools we have and the knowledge we've gained and go forward with interactive science communication training.